Okay, today we're going to talk about bulbs. Uh, Last week we talked about fixtures. Now these are the light sources that go inside of those fixtures. First ones we're going to talk about the A series. This is the most common lamp, especially the A19 that you're going to see, a common screw-in that is lamp you're ever going to see. The A19 is the ubiquitous, table lamp or ceiling lamp. You screw these into light bulbs your entire life, or into fixtures your entire life. Uh, A15s and A17s are a little weirder. You will run across A21s and A23s. They're a little bit larger than the A19, they're a little higher wattage and have more light. And occasionally you'll see these in old wall packs and wall sconces and things of that sort that need a little more light. Now, these are normally going to be incandescent, but occasionally you might come across one that is fluorescent. But for the most part, these are going to be incandescent lights every place you see them. Now, the 15, 17, 19, 20, 21, 23, it comes from the Edison's lab needing to come up with a nomenclature to uh, numerically describe different products. It was obvious that there were going to be a whole bunch of different sizes of lamps out there. So they used 1/8 of an inch to determine the description of the product. Your familiar A19 is 19/1/8 of an inch in diameter, and the diameter is across the widest point. So 19/1/8 of an inch. An A20 is 20/1/8 of an inch. 19/1/8 of an inch, approximately 2.5 inches total. So that this A15, A17, A19, A20, A21, A23 tells you how wide the bulb is. The PS series is similar to the A series other than its global shape and it's larger. You see PS 25 and PS 35. This is 25/1/8 of an inch in diameter. And the 35 is 35/1/8 of an inch in diameter. Again, these will be primarily incandescent. The B series is the B stands for bullet. These are bullet shaped. They're not candle shaped, they're bullet shaped. And a B8 is 8/1/8 of an inch, a B10, 10/1/8 of an inch, 11 and 13. These are normally going to be incandescent. You might see some that are halogen. Halogen is a form of incandescent. Well, it has a halogen gas inside of it, which allows it to burn at a higher temperature, thus a higher wattage and a higher light output. But normally these are going to be incandescents. C's look like a candle, and that's a candle series, 6, 7, 9, 11, and 15. This is a candle series. It looks like a candle. A CA is a flame tip. You see how the tip is bent over? You'll see these in chandeliers and fixtures of that sort. RP and S series are kind of unusual lamps. A lot of times you'll see these in, you might see these in appliance lighting and things of that sort. We don't run into them often. The F series is a filament lamp. There's a filament inside of it. It might be incandescent or it might be LED, but there'll be a filament inside of it. Prism lights are almost exclusively found in chandeliers. We see very few of them, and they're going to be incandescent. R series R is reflective. So R12, R14, all the way up to R40. 40 is 41/8 of an inch across here. So the light source down in here is reflecting off of aluminum here and out, and it's coming out at a specific angle. But this is the R series. This can be fluorescent, it can be incandescent, or it can be halogen. It will not be HID. But a lot of these we see are probably right now 70% are incandescent and 30% are complex fluorescence. The AMR series, again, is a reflective series, but it's a mini. MR8 is 8/1/8 of an inch across. That's 1 inch. MR11 is 11/8 of an inch. MR16, MR8s and MR16s are the ones you're going to see most of. 16 is 2 inches across. These are almost always halogen unless they're already LED. A BR series is similar to the R series, except that it throws more light out to the side than an R series does. An R series tends to have a fairly flat lens. A BR series has a puffed lens that sends light out to the sides as well as out this way. You use this one to get a softer floodlight like experience from the light source. Uh, These lamps can be compact fluorescent, they can be incandescent, they can be halogen, and they can be LED. G series is G is for globe. These are round. You see these on vanities a lot. G9 through G40. A G40 is 41/8 of an inch across here. That's a big sucker. Uh, these are going to be almost always going to be incandescent. Occasionally they will be fluorescent, but almost always going to be incandescent and very limited. Vanities are about the only place you're going to see them unless somebody's grabbed one and thrown it into a porch light or something. The T series are tube. The bulb has a tube shape. Regardless of what the base is, it has a tube shape to it. So that's a T series bulb. It goes from T3 all the way up to T20. T20 being 21/8 of an inch in diameter. They can have a variety of bases on them. They can be compact fluorescent, they can be incandescent, or some of them can be halogen, but most of them are going to be incandescent with a compact fluorescent coming in close to it. These are BTE and EDs are all HIDs. They could be high pressure sodium, they could be metal halide, they could be mercury vapor, they can be any of the HID high intensity discharge lamps that are out there. These all require a ballast. There's a ballast in the fixture to operate this lamp. If we are going to replace the lamp, we have to remove the ballast from the fixture before we do that. BTs have this little knob on top, and they tend to put out a little more light. They tend to have a few more lumens per watt than other formats for the HID lamps. E17, E18 through E25 are almost a tubular shape. It's going to be almost exclusively high pressure sodium. The ED17 is going to be almost always a metal halide, while the ED18 will be a high pressure sodium. These can be either one. But this is the range that you see out there of shapes for the HIDs. This lamp could be BT56. It's probably going to be 1,000 watts. But in the HID world, you can go up to as much as 5,000 watts in the bulbs, like stadium lighting and things of that sort. But 1,000 watts you'll see high application warehouses, like 35 feet or thereabouts for mounting height, and high applications for pole lights in parking lots. If it's an HID and it's 35 feet off the ground, it's going to be 1,000-watt lamp that's inside of it. The AR70 is kind of a specialty lamp. The AR11, 111, you're going to run into. It's got two little prongs off of the side on the bottom. And these plug in to a receptacle. They are normally going to be 12 volts. You can find them at 120 volts. AR-111s are used frequently in well lighting, underground lighting, like for flags, and or sometimes embedded in sidewalks. There'll be lights. It'll be something like this at 12 volts that they have in it. I have seen these used in display lighting, again at 12 volts for indoor applications. But this is a real common one for well lighting. It's relatively low wattage and low voltage. The PAR lamps, difference between PAR and reflective is PAR is parabolic aluminized reflector, PAR, parabolic aluminized reflector. That means the reflector that's inside of here has little indentations in it to help focus the light output, through this lens at a specific beam angle. The reflector series, these up here, just has a smooth aluminum surface inside, and the light reflects based on the angle of its approach. So you have a light source down here, and it approaches it at a certain angle, it bounces off in the opposite angle. PAR series lamps, the lights bounce off in focused areas. So with a PAR, you can get a lot more control over your beam width. I've seen PAR lamps, PAR 30s, with beam widths as low as 7% or 7 degrees. Well, 7 degrees is a great beam angle for like display lighting in retail applications. 7 degrees would be really bad if you're trying to light up a backyard, but if you want focus light on a specific target, a real narrow beam angle. Normally these come off the shelf with normal flood and wide beam angles. So with the normal being about 20-degree beam angle. But for specialty applications, we can get them down to as tight as about 7 degrees. And we have done that in some retail applications for track lighting, where the customer wanted to use the track lighting to highlight specific products in that system. PAR lamps can come with a variety of bases. It doesn't make any difference what the base is. It's still a PAR, or PAR is a parabolic aluminized reflector. And it can come in 12 volt, come in 24 volt, come in 120 volt, come in 277 volt. It can even come in 480 volt. These are real specialty lamps that you really aren't going to come into often. These rigid loops, you're going to see those in pendant mounted little tiny reflectors, shining a very small amount of light in a very small area, more decorative lighting. In fact, all of these are really more decorative lighting. Wedge lamps and festoons, you see a lot in automobiles. Cars have these in them throughout. Linear fluorescence. T2, T4, T5, T8, T12. These are the common ones. T2 is 2/1/8 of an inch in diameter. It's a quarter of an inch. This thing is as small as a pencil. T4 is 4/1/8 of an inch. T5, you're familiar with those? Those are 5/8 of an inch. T8 is 1 inch in diameter, 8/1/8 of an inch. And a T12 is 12/1/8 of an inch. They can come in lengths of anywhere from 18 inches to 2 feet to 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet in length. And they typically come in high output and normal output ranges. So for instance, a 4-foot T12 normally puts out about 40 watts, or uses about 40 watts. But if you get a high output T12 4-foot, it's almost 60 watts. There's a huge difference in your ROIs between T12 with 40 and a T12 with 60 watts. Those are values that you want to record. T8, normally there is a high output one, but it's very seldom used. I have seen what's called eco tubes that run with a little less wattage than your normal 32 watt lamp, but it's also pretty rare. You don't run into it very often. T5s come in either standard or high output. Uh, a T5, 4-foot T5 as standard is about 30 watts. At high output is 58 watts. A huge difference in the wattage consumption rate, for that lamp. Compact fluorescent coils. You see these bloody things all over the place. They're now illegal in Oregon, and shortly be illegal in almost every place. The T2, T3, and T4 had to do with the diameter of the coil. So this is 2/10 or 1/8 of an inch. There's 3 1/8 of an inch and 4 1/8 of an inch in diameter. They can come with any kind of base. It can be a pin base. It can be a screw in. Normally it is screw in. It's always compact. It's always fluorescent. Plug-ins, always going to be plug-ins. They come in various shapes, a single loop, 2 loops, 3 loops. There are some larger ones that are out there. There's some construction lighting units out there that have as many as 5 loops in them, and they're almost 100 watts, by the way. A twin tube, a short twin tube is going to be about 9 watts. A short quad tube, a standard short quad tube, is going to be about 18 watts. Well, now if this is a little bit longer, it's up around 4 inches in length, and this is about 4 inches in length. This 9 is going to grow. It might be 13 watts, and this, because these tubes are longer, it's going to grow, and it'll be a 26 watt. 26 watt is a very common wattage for a 2-tube compact fluorescent. 3 tubes can be 32 to 40 watts. Some of them as much as 42 watts. It depends on the length of this tube here. If this is a little short guy, it's about 9 watts. If it's a little bit longer, it's 13 watts. 13 watts, this could be it can be 18 watts, could be 26 watts. That's the lamps. I'm going to go quickly through the bases that go along with those lamps. E10 is a very tiny. Now, bases are measured in millimeters, not 1/8 of an inch. So E10 is 10 millimeters across. E11 is 11 millimeters across. E12, 12 millimeters. You're not going to run into E14s in the States unless it happens to be an antique fixture that was imported from Europe. The ones you're going to see mostly, these are the small bases, little tiny bases, you're going to see E12s. E12s are real common for screw-in lamps, like those bullets and those candle lights that you saw up above. Most of them are going to have an E12, base on them. E26 and E27 is almost interchangeable. E26 is 26 millimeters across. E27 is 27 millimeters across. They'll both fit into and operate in either socket. This is the most common one that we see out there for standard light bulbs, standard screw-in light bulbs. E39 is real common. E40 less so, EX39 less so. E39 is typically what you're going to see on a HID type of lamp. E39 is 39 millimeters across. So this guy's pretty good size. It's much bigger than your standard E26, 10 millimeters larger, 13 millimeters larger than your E26. This is your HID, style of lamp. And same with the E40. Twisted lock bases are real popular in California, not so much here. 10 millimeters, you'll find a very small bulbs. It's the GU10. GU24 is what you would find on a larger bulb, like a PAR 30 or an A19. And these are the lamps that you push in and give a quarter twist. You will run into them once in a while in elevators. You might see them in elevators. These are specialties. You're not going to run into many of these to be of much concern. If that's the way it is. Until I get to these up here. A BA15D has duplex contacts. See the two little tits on the bottom? Had two contacts. It's a duplex. It's 15 millimeters in diameter. And there's a little knob right here on the side. So this lamp you push in and twist, and it has two contacts. A BA15S goes into the same size socket. It has two knobs on the side, but it only has one contact point on the bottom. So a lot of times in small lamps like MR11, MR8, they may have this BA15 or D or S base. At some point in the process, we're going to need to know whether it's a D or S because they're not interchangeable. Biopin bases, GU 5.3 is real common, and probably GU8 is real common. You're not going to see many of these others. 4 millimeters is very, very close together. 5.3 you see for MR16s and MR20s. Mini bipin, you're going to see that on a tube light that's very small in diameter, like that T4 or T5. Recessed, this is a wedge shape. You see that on tube lights that are high output. G10, okay, this is a circling. This is one of those circle-shaped lamps that you see in ceiling decoratives. It has a G10Q 4-pin base on it. A medium bipin is what you see on T8s and sometimes T12s. A single bipin is what you see on T8s and T12s. The 2GX13 has the 4 pins, but they're on opposite sides, and you're not going to run into those very often. But these you will see, frequently. These are what you see on tube lights. Compact fluorescent bases, this is just an introduction. Every manufacturer uses its own pin configuration for compact fluorescents. And the reason they have to do that is because every compact fluorescent requires a ballast. And you can't use one manufacturer's ballast on another manufacturer's lamp. So to make sure that the ballast and the lamps are compatible, each one has a unique pin configuration to make sure that you can't plug the wrong lamp into the wrong ballast. Pin configuration includes these little knobs and notches on the sides. Typical for us are G24Qs. We use a lot of G24Q 1s and 2s. G23 is typically 2 pins. GX23 is real common that we run into. The other one that you need to be aware of is 2G11. Okay, this 2G11, see those 4 pins and they're linear? That's what you're going to find on the bottom of a biax lamp. It's going to be a linear base and it's going to have 4 pins on it that are in a linear shape. It's not in a square shape. It's not interchangeable with any of these other ballasts that are up there. Or when we're replacing a biax lamp, which are long tubes, they're fluorescent. They can be as much as almost 23 inches in length. But they'll have a 2G11 base in them. Okay, that's lamps and bases. for today. Questions?
Yeah, incandescent, that A19 bulb, Bruce went over, they finally got banned last year. You're still going to run into them, but you won't see those for sale anymore. So if you've seen incandescent lamps in any install, it's certainly an opportunity for us to do an upgrade. In the old days, they used to use that PS35 and a 500 watt to light up warehouses. So think about the energy savings there. You got 500-watt heaters up on the ceiling. But when you're out and about and we're trying to get information back to Bruce and we don't have Jason in the loop, it certainly is nice if you can go in here and identify. If you're not sure, just take a picture of the bulb and we can probably take it from there. Often there's some fine print that's on the bulb that may come off when you touch it, but usually the part number you'll find somewhere on the bottom or the base of the bulb. But thank you, Bruce. It was super informative.
Okay, then it's a wrap for today. We managed to do it in a half hour. I'll see you next week with the next session in the series.